Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. DUANE the Great Writer and Seer.
On previous real side experiences, I have revealed the presence of the physical level Mexican ranch recreated on the real side, but a massively expanded version which serves as a position where beings stepping up and sincere with their awareness processes throughout multi-dimensional creation can take up residence as they so choose, and where constant is support in regards to awareness, and with intent placement always affecting its reflected nature as to our positioning in life, the options, situations, and opportunities we make available to us, only with intent placed with the ears, the recognizing of the true reality, will a simulated experience follow, which facilitates the actualization of the real purpose, that of the recognition of our real awareness, true being selves, and the isness everything reality, that this real awareness that we all are is a part of. The real side ranch and other positions of a similar real awareness and is recognizing orientated nature will have an inbuilt security system therefore, by virtue of the individuals who have intention other than that placed with the ears, really policing themselves, that through their personal self-satisfying inclinations and limited intentionalities, so they are in reality denying themselves positions in life that would benefit their awareness, as they formulate then simulated experiential effects that mirror their free will personal self-drives and objectives, which if they are not aligned with the real intent of ears recognition, so they will be unable to feature on the real side ranch and other various real universities and so forth, effecting then the reflected means by which they can be denied entry or removed if they encroach upon these positions. For really they had effected circumstances in which they can't be present, effects that others can manage and be the delivery mechanism for their removal. as nothing can we experience, and in relation to others, absent of the effects we generate through the idea agreements we create, or those created by others we agree with, including the intents we establish and the life choices we execute. We always are the experience of ourselves, and afford the means by which others can assume roles in the movies we make, including the ability of the guides to remove us from the real side ranch. As in reality we had decided this be so, through intent set other than with the true reality, as our simulated fallout then cannot be that which reflects real is recognizing intent, the various real side positions that assist in facilitating its actualization. In this real side experience, I would be present on the real side ranch among various other aware beings, but although the identities of which were all unknown to my personal self, one I would recognize, and that would be DUANE. DUANE was preparing to execute a performance or show of some kind, as though anticipated were large numbers of individuals who would shortly be in attendance and receptive to what DUANE was intending to provide. The real side ranch would be the venue by which this show would be featuring, and very likely it would be in regards to real references pertaining to creation, its mechanics, the real awareness, and the purpose of the simulators, that of a comparative means by which the ears can be recognized, etc. For indeed this has been another common theme of my recent real side experiences of late, that of putting on grand performances throughout multi-dimensional creation to share the new you sound and the opportunity of the ears, etc. And this situation would be no different, with the DUANE orchestrating proceedings in this instance. I would be part of a team in assistance, and we were creating the various sets and scenes that, in conjunction with what DUANE would be conveying to our audience when they arrived, would be the visuals and special effects that we provide a more immersive and sensory captivating overall experience. Additionally, would we be required to operate what appeared to be a technology that would produce a certain music during the show, perhaps again to enhance the overall performance, but maybe we would be bathing the audience in particular frequencies more conducive for the absorbing of the real references DUANE would be conveying. For any sound at its base state is a frequency before being decoded by the body form mechanics sensory apparatus into the sounds we hear, and it has been determined that school children listening to Beethoven are far more able to grasp that which is being taught, as opposed to, say, more abrasive music as an example. And this would be the idea here with the music we were to transmit via the frequencies as generated by the technology we were to operate. However, during our preparations, coming into my awareness would be the opportunity for an assignment, and it is so that we can multitask. We are in actuality multi-dimensional, and that which we are doing throughout creation, as effected from the intents we set, etc., is far more than what can be revealed to the personal self at any given moment, The personal self is shown but pieces and glimpses of the full magnitude of our real side activities. And so, in reality, I could have proceeded with my assistance in regards to the setting up of the performance and simultaneously be engaging in assignments, but seemed I would elect to momentarily withdraw my assistance in favour of the assignment possibility. In reality, it doesn't really matter what we do, creationally speaking, providing our intent is placed with the ears. But then, with such an intent placement, that which enters our experiences as option and opportunity will be a reflection of this real intent, that which serves to benefit life, and with everything equaling itself, benefit our own awareness accordingly. And perhaps more prudent would it be to continue assisting with the performance, but then I tend to be geared more towards the sci-fi monster engaging orientated objectives, and will readily lap up any opportunity for such assignments. For indeed, the assignment was in regards to vampires, as impressions revealed that operating in a position that seemed relatively close to the location of the real side ranch, though in reality distance, space and time are simply illusory effects made possible to experience through the creational mechanics. But what seemed, literally speaking, in close proximity was a vast supermarket, and entering it would be a very highly ranked vampire. The vampire is simply another expression of a body form, as effected from a particular design of consciousness, according to the choices and decisions made, the ideas installed, etc., and generally the vampire body types are a reflected distortion of an equally as abrasively driven and ill-intended consciousness. The vampires tend to operate in dark force-orientated capacities and have the ability, just like in the movies, to convert others to their kind. They have exceedingly lengthy life durations and generally have the compulsion, and in many cases physiological need, to consume blood. I and others have had various engagings and interactions with the vampire species on the real side, some of which are electing to step up and become more aware at this moment, but many of them are not. As we always are the effects of ourselves, for those that are abrasively driven and destructive of others, this reflects as they self-destructing ultimately in accordance, and along the way will they assume body forms and creational positions as distorted as the consciousness they have constructed, the ideas it has filed in relation to their chosen abrasiveness. Instead of letting the effects play out as they will, and the individual impact destructively as they do along the way, the eventual self-reflected destruction can be managed prior to the damage the individual will continue to cause to that point of self-implosion. For everything is its instant effects in reality. A destructive idea already is its own self-destruction, but the simulation will unfold as it will creationally to this moment of idea destruction, and so destructive ideas can be offset prior to the adversity they may cause or continue to cause. Ideas can be dismantled and nullified at their source, and in regards to the ideas that are the distorted abrasive body forms, The effects of their eventual implosion can be managed, that they can be nullified or displaced, just a variation on the effects they would have eventually experienced due to their chosen destructiveness. This managing of effects can be expressed in various simulated experiential ways. In this case, I would attempt to approach this highly ranked vampire operating in what appeared to be a standard human Earth supermarket, affording him the option to make better choices, as he was one of the more mal-intended varieties. On failing that, so I would manage his effects that he would be shut down, and visually this expressed as my being armed with a sharpened piece of wood, that just as it is in the movies, so would this stake be utilized for his demise. Just an overly dramatic way of effectively displacing him should he disregard my alternative proposals as to his general inclinations. For indeed, all weapons can represent ideas on the real side, a bullet as much as a blade, or in this case a stake. The stake representing then the idea that is the effect of the vampire's displacement, an effect the vampire really had decided for himself, as though in reality he had staked himself, and I was simply the delivery mechanism through a role he had made available to me. Interestingly, although through the real awareness that is part of the isness everything reality, a reality that animates through all consciousness, so every idea is available to the real awareness, so the simulated forms can be effected into any simulated multi-dimensional position, and there is nowhere any being can hide should we seek to engage with them. But in this case, I had a kind of a vampire tracking device, perhaps just as an additional exaggerated feature that allowed for ease of recall of the experience on awaking, that as I activated the device, so it would zero in on any vampire, regardless of how far, literally speaking, they were positioned in relation to myself on the real side. Interestingly, it also would be activated by the presence of any variety of bat, for as I traversed through what was now a scene pitched in darkness, so as I held the device aloft, the bats in the skies above would be illuminated in green and present on the device's monitor screen. Seemingly then, vampires indeed had some association with the bat form. At the very least, they had a similar body form frequency, as the device would track and reveal the presence of both bat and vampire alike. I would now advance on the supermarket. Impressions revealed the highly ranked vampire was of the appearance of a human, a heavy-set man wearing an expensive tailored suit. And as I said, my intentions were to present him with an ultimatum: cease and desist with his current choices and actions, and perchance step up and become more aware as an alternative, or I would be the delivery mechanism of instant karma, the effects he had accrued for himself, courtesy of my stake displacing tool. The scene would switch, however, and I wouldn't be shown the results of my efforts. It's always prudent to approach the more highly ranked and positioned characters of any destructively operating species, as they will wield more influence, and if displaced, so can we put a dent in their species' ill-intended operations, or if they elect to step up, so through their reach and prominence, so they are in positions to more readily encourage others of their kind to step up also. This vampire would be held in high regard through his lofty position, and his actions and words always be held in the highest consideration by all vampire kind consequently. I assume I had delivered my ultimatum, despite this not being shown to the personal self, and indeed the assignment would proceed and involve still further dealings with still further vampires. I would be in the presence of a number of other awareness becoming, human in appearance individuals who had elected to join me on my vampire confronting objective, none of which my personal self recognized other than new friend Val. We were positioned on the outskirts of a village. The scene was once again shrouded in the dark of night, and we were within a kind of wooden shack. Within the village would be a sinister-looking dark fortress, and it was within this fortress that vampires resided and were systematically wiping out the inhabitants of the village seemingly. For to emphasize this, so would the anguished cries of pain, suffering, and abject terror from the vampires' victims reach our ears. Joining us for this venture had also been several werewolves, those of the bipedal, two-legged variety that, just like the vampires, are very real body types, generally operating in ill-intended and abrasive dark force-orientated capacities, hence their reflected, distorted, monstrous body types. Although, just as it is with the vampires, certain of the werewolves are stepping up also, and this was the case with the werewolves here, and where they were willing to participate in assignments where the confronting of the vampires was concerned. As we are the effects of ourselves, that which we have agreed to idea-wise and consciousness installed, so for any situation to befall us, including the ability of others to impact our body forms, is dependent on the idea agreements that effect this to be. Absent of the idea, and there can be no corresponding simulation, regardless of how powerful a body form is, and how adamant they may be of affording harm to us. The process of awareness does involve a facing and releasing of all idea agreements of consciousness, that progressively we become less the effects of its construct, and the less we can be impacted by other body forms that we had perhaps previously retained agreements to that allowed them to harm or eliminate us, and try as our would-be assailants might, they will be unable to exact harm upon us in the absence of the idea agreements that they can, and this will express in whatever simulated nullifying of our attackers' way it might. Our werewolf associates evidently still harboured agreements in relation to the vampires that effected as the shared experience where they could be harmed and eradicated by them. The werewolves had been as though scouting the village, the vampires had ambushed them, and although not killing them, had injured them severely, as here they lay, bruised and bleeding, in our wooden shack. The group, Val and myself, however, were far more indestructible, despite our less formidable body types, operating in our usual human forms as we were, but as I said, the outcome of adverse interaction is dependent on agreement placement between all involved. We lacked agreements in regards to the vampires, dictating their ability to harm us, and so we would proceed toward the sinister fortress, as a few of our group remained with the battered werewolves in a protective capacity. We would each be armed with our stakes, representing the idea of the effects of displacement we would embed in them, effects they had really decided for themselves through their own chosen abrasiveness. But first, we would undoubtedly give them the option to relinquish their destructive inclinations and provide the opportunity of the ears, just as had been the case with the more highly ranked vampire from the prior scene. Although the scene would end absent of the outcome, but assuredly we had confronted the vampires, as nothing was preventing us from this objective. In a final and unrelated scene, I would be afforded an update in regards to the alien Armada, a fleet of stepping up and various assorted body forms inbound to Earth that, as part of their contribution in regards to assisting the Earth, so they intend to ideally bring humanity into their confederation of awareness becoming and is recognizing a species. Much has been done to derail their progress, as the dark forces desire to retain humanity as their controlled slaves, and as everything that befalls humanity is really according to the agreements present in their overall consciousness, all the dark forces can do realistically, through whatever means and mechanisms available to them, is install agreements into human consciousness that effected will be circumstances where the alien Armada's objective is prevented, and indeed that humanity experience the various escalating, controlling, and depopulation scenarios as according to the controller's desired agendas, and of which I have been reporting of the many potentialities. For although every idea agreement is in effect now in actuality, only certain ideas will be present as humanity's overall experience, and for the effects to change, so alternative ideas that are consciousness present must be embraced. The consciousness presents these ideas much as a DVD player presents a movie. The movie is complete, but from the personal self, physical level perspective, so must the movie be sat through, from idea inception to effect outcome, the movie's end. And it is the idea, or movie, that occupies the prominent held-to position in a consciousness that is currently being played, that although is complete in actuality, for the culmination point to be reached, so must the idea agreement be held to in prominence long enough for the effect to be experienced physical level-wise. And should another idea agreement assume the position of a prominence, then the movie is switched, and what has taken its place begins to roll out to a completion. The dark forces then are unceasing in their efforts, that the agreements which favour them and their agendas for humanity are those that occupy the prominent position in human consciousness, and ultimately then humanity decides what befalls them as a species. And our real side business has included our ensuring that the agreement placement is conducive, that the alien Armada's arrival to Earth be successful, and where we have been displacing the interfering factors and dark force variables, etc. My last report would suggest the alien Armada had been delayed, for the dark forces had managed to install a particular idea in human consciousness which effected as an environmentally destructive agent or slime, which would infect all species of the Armada also, had they arrived at Earth where this was taking place. And so prudent was it for the Armada to stand down until this could be rectified, that although the means by which this latest situation had been resolved wasn't revealed, this would indeed be the case. For I would be standing in a random, undisclosed street of the earth, and among multitudes of humans looking skyward, and present now would be a huge spacecraft of a design that interestingly was similar to that described by the prophet Ezekiel of wheels within wheels. Can it be that what he witnessed and the spacecraft now in the sky here was one and the same, or at least of a similar design? Impressions revealing this vast ship was part of the alien Armada, as though the first of the fleet making its presence known. For indeed, being broadcasted throughout the television channels of the world was news of this occurrence, that all humanity would be made aware of the presence of this initial alien craft, and what would follow would be the alien Armada in its entirety, filling every sky of every continent of the earth. This verified then that the alien Armada is back on track, that as agreements currently stand, this event will be featuring as humanity's overall experience. But expected can it be that the dark forces will tirelessly continue to disrupt this from taking place, through the only means that they can, that of the attempted installation of agreement ideas in human consciousness, where effected are alternative outcomes which do not include the ability of the alien Armada to feature. Ultimately, humanity decides, through the agreements they hold to prominently, that become physical level actualities, and it will be interesting to see how this continues to develop.